Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to create effortless power by putting a few simple moves in your golf swing. All right guys, so let's talk about effortless power. Everyone comes in and wants to hit the ball farther and have this effortless power. And there are some ways to do this. There's two specifically, two things that I want to talk about here in today's video that you can add to your swing to create that effortless power. I want to talk a little bit about how to do that. What are some things that would take that power away or make it feel like you're really forcing that power? The idea here is for you guys to go on a golf course and make a swing that feels good and smooth and you get more speed out of it. So two different things. I'm going to show you the first piece from here and then we'll switch over and I'll show you another piece. All right guys, so part number one of creating effortless power and more speed is backswing related. So I'm going to take my setup and show you guys what I'm talking about here. Now, if I were to do this in a general sense, and of course there are anomalies, but in a general sense, if we look at the backswing and how you can move during your backswing to create effortless power, I'm going to define effortless as you're not forcing something. That was how I'm going to say this. These are moves that should happen and create some speed by itself, not you forcing more speed. So part number one is the backswing. Now, when we go back, when I make a backswing, the more vertical that I get the shaft during my backswing, the lighter the club will feel. More vertical, lighter. When I do a backswing, if I get the club more horizontal, the club is heavier. When I take the center mass of the club and it's out of line with where I'm holding it, it gets heavier. More horizontal, heavier, more vertical, lighter. When you swing in creating power, easier in terms of creating effortless power to swing an object that's lighter or heavier. That's pretty simple. A lighter object is going to feel less effort, right? When I make a backswing, the more vertical I make it, the lighter that club feels. Now, for some of you who go horizontal, yes, that's going to require a change, pretty big change when you go back. When you go, we'll talk about how to get that more vertical. That's part number one. How vertical during your backswing should you go? Well, there's no doubt there's a high correlation with players who get the shaft more vertical and play better golf, create more speed, so on and so forth. And that's part number one. Now we have other videos about how to do the backswing moves, how to implement that. I'm not going to get as much detail, but you need to know that the more vertical your backswing is, the more effortless you're going to create speed. That's pretty much fact across the board. And the more horizontal you get it, the more you're going to have to force speed. You guys get that there? Easier speed, more vertical, more horizontal, you're going to have to force speed. That's part number one. Why does that happen? When I go back, you know, if I were to have the shaft vertical, or even if I exaggerated and had the club head way outside my hands going back, I always talk about equal and opposite in action reaction, and it's true most of the time. If I go back and I get the club head outside my hands and I get the shaft going very vertical, what's going to happen is I'm going to have a opposite effect during my downswing, sort of like a whipping action, right? If I were to move an object this way and I whip it back under, I create speed, which for me is for free, okay, right? It's free speed, it's effortless. When I go, the more I can make the club sort of loop in this direction, right? Loop in like this, the more speed I'm going to produce. Now, if I go back and I get the club horizontal going back like this, the more the club is going to come steep going down in this way. The concept here to understand is this. During my downswing, the more the club head is behind to the right of this way my hands, the more the club head is behind my hands in space, the easier it is to produce speed. That's the concept here. The more behind me, my hands, regardless of where they are in space, the more behind the club head is to my hands, the easier it is to produce speed. That club wants to seek 90 degrees, a whipping effect. That's not scientifically true across the boards, but for golf, in simple terms, that's how we're going to say that there. Club head behind my hands. Now, if that's true, the opposite's also true. When I come down, the more the club tips vertical during the downswing, or the club head gets even with my hands, right? The less I get for free, the less speed I get, the more I have to force my way back down in impact, a lot more force that you have to put into the club. Whereas if you get the club moving properly and get the dynamics correct, and the club head gets behind you, the center of mass of the club gets more behind you, that thing's gonna kick back out. You get some speed for free. You get speed here's the key. You get speed without you having to put more force into the club. Okay, to simplify it, right, it's club head behind your hands, good. Club head even width from your angle or more outside, bad. Club head more outside, you have to put force in the club to create speed. Club head more behind your hands, you don't have to put force into it. The club's gonna do it by itself. That's concept number one. Now, a lot of you will do that and notice more speed, and you might have absolutely no control as to where the ball goes in the beginning. Some of you it'll work good, some of you there'll be no clue. And what I'm gonna tell you is this, right? Sometimes you can't have your cake and eat it too. You watch long drive guys on the Golf Channel, how many do they hit within the grid? Not a lot. Okay, they hit it a mile, but they hit it all over the place. So in the beginning phases, just understand as you're adding speed, your expectation level should not be to add speed and hit it closer to the hole right off the bat in one thing. The idea would be if speed's that important to you, which it is, I guess make no mistake, what's the whole point of this going back? Well, if you hit the ball farther when you go play, very clear statistical advantage. Lower scores, shorter second shots, proximity to the hole is different, one-to-one correlation. So if you hit some offline as you're doing this, who cares? Did it feel less effort? Okay, that didn't make sense. Does it feel like you're putting in less effort as you do that move, yes or no? If yes, then that's probably good for you speed-wise. And let me be clear when I say less effort. Certainly, if you don't do this move where the club head's outside the hands, the shaft is more vertical and whips under, it's gonna feel weird. Let's not confuse weird or exaggerated with effort. That's different. It might feel really weird, like, oh man, I didn't really have to, like, that kind of club just kind of dropped by itself. That's the deal. So I'm gonna hit one here just to kind of demonstrate what I mean, to exaggerate. I'm gonna get the club head outside my hands. I'm gonna get the shaft more vertical. I'm gonna let the club head fall behind me this way, and I don't care where I hit it. What I'm going for is, did it create more speed and was it less effort? So a little bit of an exaggerated backswing move here. And for me, that feels so easy and smooth. Now, did I feel like I had to loop it? Absolutely. Did I feel like I physically had to grade that? Absolutely. The key is, once I go to the top and this club head starts falling back, I feel like I don't have to do anything from there and the club head whips it back in front, okay? That's the thing, less effort. So that's part number one. If you want effortless power, you don't have much of a choice. More vertical, lighter shaft, more club falling under, more speed. The other way, less speed, it is what it is. You need to determine if you want to do that, how can you match that up with controlling the direction afterwards. So that's part number one. I'm going to show you part number two next. All right, guys, so part number two here in terms of creating effortless speed and power is going to be how the pressure and weight work in the feet. Now, we talked just before, right, about the backswing getting more vertical, the club head getting behind your hands, and that is incredibly important in part number one. Part number two with the weight in the feet, right? I said before about the long drive guys not being able to hit in the grid, and they swing so fast that that's hard to do, but we can watch them and learn about what they do to create that power and speed that they have. When you take your setup, right, if I'm going with driver, the weight in my feet or pressure in my feet is about 50-50. Now the idea here is that I'm gonna shift into my right foot some pressure when I go back, and then I'm gonna shift into my left foot some pressure when I come through. And you would do that in any sport, right? Any other thing you would do, whether it be throwing a ball. If I were to throw a ball, I would shift into my right foot, trail foot, I'd shift into my lead foot and I'd throw. If I were gonna play baseball, the same thing. I'd be in my trail foot, shift into my lead foot, and then I'd go and I'd rotate and I'd throw. It'd be the same deal here. Shifting pressure in your feet is a big speed producer. If you watch the long drive guys, there's a definite movement to the right and a movement up, which will be the next part of this to create some speed. How much and how do you do it? The first key here during the backswing is I want to shift pressure in my feet without moving my mass a lot to the right. I'm by no means saying you should make a backswing and move your whole body way to the right off the ball. That's not going to be a big speed producer. The idea is my body, my head, my torso, my belt buckle, as I'm turning, tilting, extending, is staying somewhat centered, okay? But the pressure in my feet is going to the right. How much? Well, I would do a bunch in the beginning to play with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit one with just this first piece. Pressure into my trail foot going back, pressure into my lead foot before I come down. Let's just go ahead and hit one like that first. just to demonstrate, and then we'll go through how to do each one. So into my trail foot, going back into my lead foot. And that one felt good there for me. So it definitely feels when I do that, that I'm trying to shift more in my feet than normal. When I measure with my TrackMan, I can sometimes hit 15, 20 yards farther than normal, right? So part number one, shift more into your right than you think, and then shift more in your left. Now this is an effortless power and a speed producer. If you're on the tee and you're topping shots or slicing weight to the right or left, this probably is not that big of a concern. You need to fix that part first. I'm not saying shift more and those shots are gonna get better, okay? This is just a speed thing here. So as I shift into my right, I'm gonna shift into my left. Now, one thing long drive guys do if you watch them, who hit it really far, is not only do they shift into their right foot, they also go up a little bit, right? So physically in space, if you were to kind of measure the top of my head there, when I go back, I'm gonna shift to the right, and I'm also gonna feel like I get taller. Now, when I get taller, what that is in reality is extension, okay? So if I were to stand here like this, and I'm straight up and down, extension is like this, chest up towards the sky, and I'm extending, bending backwards, if you will. That's a literal move, but that might be too complicated for some people. If you just think get taller a little bit when you go back, I would throw that in. Watch them and go on here and look up some long drive guys and watch when they go back, they shift to the right and they go up here like this. They're not shifting their body weight to the right. They're not going down. They're not hanging on their left side. You want effortless power. We can use the ground to create that. So here's ball number two. Same deal as the first one, shift to the right. I'm gonna get a little bit taller. This is what I do when I'm trying to hit a long one on a par 5. Shift to the right, get a little bit taller. And that again, when I do that and measure it, that's usually 10, 15, 20 yards different. Now, I don't physically think about the shift to the left, and I would argue some of that's probably gonna happen by itself. Where I would want you to keep your intention is shift right here and get taller. It's okay if you feel like there's a little bit of kind of lower body motion as you go back, as long as you're turning with it, and kind of let the forward part happen by itself. But the shift in the feet, play around with it. See if you hit it farther. What else do you need to feel with that to still hit the ball straight? Okay, this is effortless power. How do you create effortless power? Number one, you get the shaft more vertical, get the club head more behind your hands, create that whip effect. No doubt about that, that creates more speed with less effort. Number two, get the pressure moving in your feet. No doubt about that either, that creates more speed with less effort. Now, if you put those two together, that would be the ultimate, getting the shaft more vertical and under, shifting more pressure to the right and going up when you go back. I'm gonna do one with that. That would be my super long drive swing. So shifting pressure to my right foot and getting taller. I'm gonna feel like the shaft gets more vertical and kind of falls back underneath. And we'll see if I can control the direction here. Add a little speed. So to the right, shaft more vertical. So you can't see that, but that was beautiful. And that feel, I mean, that ball comes off the face so much hotter than my normal. Now I'd have to do that enough, ball's still flying. I'd have to do that enough to feel comfortable going to play, but I know those things are what creates speed. So you can build that into your normal pattern, okay, exaggerate the heck out of it on the range, see what happens. Maybe find a middle ground, okay, that you can still hit the ball straight and how you want, but still get the speed from it. Those are the first two areas I would look if I wanted to create effortless speed. You should do the same thing. As always, if you guys have any questions, leave me a comment down below. Hey guys, if you like this video, please do me a favor and click the like button down below. Click the notification bell if you haven't already, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below.